You're very welcome back now. Hibernation season is here and Derek is having a little snooze. You're cozying up with a few hedgehogs.
He is. We sent him to the amazing team in Kildare Wildlife Rescue this morning.
Yes, Derek, it's over to you.
Thank you very much, team. Gurmila, welcome down here to Kildare Wildlife Rescue. We're talking all things hedgehogs here this morning. One of my favourite little animals. We're joined now by Pierce Stokes and our local vet here, Fiona Grimes. Good morning to you both. Pierce, I'll kick off with you because hedgehogs, it's a busy time of year for them.
Yeah, so at this time of year with hedgehogs, they come into all kinds of trouble. Unfortunately, coming up to Halloween, there's risks there. They're being run over in the dark days, the dark mornings. They're a nocturnal animal. If you see a hedgehog out during the day, probably needs help. You need to get a video of that animal, send it to Kildare Wildlife Rescue. But they are the only animal in Ireland that hibernates, truly. They're a really, really nice animal to have in your garden. If you've got a hedgehog in your garden, you've got a healthy garden. They're insectivores. They're out there, and what we're just saying to people at this time of year is to leave the leaves. You don't need to mow the leaves, you don't need to sweep them up and put them in a bag and bring them to the dump. Leave the leaves where they are, let the insects, the larvae, let the hedgehogs live in them. They make a lovely little nest in them, and that's what we're just hoping that people will do.
Yeah, they are, of course, mammals, and they're fast little creatures as well, aren't they?
They're surprisingly fast. Again, you shouldn't really see them, so you shouldn't really know how fast they are, but they absolutely can move. So if you see one, like I said, out during the day, and if you can catch it, essentially, then there's something definitely wrong with that poor animal. And Fiona will talk to you about the kinds of things that they have to actually deal with.
Now, you were telling me this time of year, in fact, well, they're going to hibernate in December, but there's a lot of risk for them at this time of year, right?
Yeah, this is an important time of year for them because they need to get nice and heavy so that they can survive that hibernation. So they need lots of food. They're out there busily working away. But then they build their nests, and their nests just look like big piles of leaves. And what they do is they'll nest up, and they might find themselves in a nest in a bonfire. And so we're asking people, you know, if they are making a bonfire, to say just move it before you light it, because you can have hedgehogs inside. That's obviously a terrible way for a hedgehog to go. Similarly, they're dying on the road. So in the UK, in the 1950s, there was about 30 million hedgehogs. Now they've got about 500,000 hedgehogs. So we're talking about huge population decline there. And in the urban environments in the UK, the numbers are actually going up. So there's a lot of things that people can do in their own gardens and stuff to help hedgehogs.
And if people come across a hedgehog or two in their own garden, then Pierce, what should they do?
Like all wildlife, admire it from afar. Enjoy having that beautiful piece of biodiversity in your garden. You're very lucky. But if it's out during the day, it's unwell, you definitely need to get care of that. That means get a video of it, preferably if you can, of it moving around, and send that to your local wildlife rescue or hedgehog rescue, because there's a couple of those too. Never feed them milk. They're lactose intolerant. I know everybody everybody thinks that you should be feeding them milk. No wildlife really should receive milk. So what you want is to, you know, encourage insects in your garden. Leave the slug pellets, leave the insecticides, leave all that out of your garden. And if you have a natural, healthy garden, you might end up with a hedgehog, which is lovely.
So let them do the work. All right, Fiona is our local vet from Grey Abbey. Good morning to you, Fiona.
Hi, Derek.
And we've got a gorgeous little hedgehog here. Tell us about him.
Yeah, so he came in as an orphan, so sometimes we find them as babies, displaced. He's been with us for a little while. We've hand-raised him here, so I'm just giving him a health check. So they need to be about 600 grams before they can go back into the wild. He's only 200 grams, so he has a bit to go yet.
Okay, how many spines then would a normal hedgehog have?
About 5,000. Yeah, so he's got nice, healthy, thick spines there. Sometimes they do have things like ringworm, or they're a bit balder. We see lots of different kind of parasites on them. So around this time of the year, a common thing that we see is kind of skinny, dehydrated juveniles. A lot of the time they have got a lot of intestinal parasites.
Yeah, they're also, I believe, great swimmers. So they're great runners, they're great swimmers. They're actually like triathletes, right?
Yeah, a bit of everything.
And good climbers as well, I believe.
They can do everything, little.
Now, tell us about then, obviously, Pierce mentioned not to feed them milk. So what would you feed them if you have them in your garden?
So you can feed them cat food, that dry food or wet food. They tend to like crunching away on that. But, you know, themselves, they'll eat insects. That's kind of their natural diet.
Now, I believe hedgehogs have quite poor eyesight, right?
They do, yeah. So they rely mainly on their sense of smell to find the food that they need to eat in the wild.
And obviously they are nocturnal.
Yes, they come out at night time.
Yeah, and how many have you got here then in the sanctuary itself?
We probably have about 40 at the moment. So a lot of the juveniles are kind of eventually getting to the weight where they can be released. They've been here during the summer.
And the plan is obviously then to release them back into the wild.
Exactly, yeah. So they'll go out to outdoor runs to kind of acclimatise to being outside. And then once they're ready, once they're the correct weight, we've done health checks and everything is good, then they'll go out.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you, Fiona. All right, Pierce, we're going to finish up with a live little rescue here. And I mean, this is a big issue for hedgehogs,
This
right?
is a huge issue. We find hedgehogs that have fallen down into drains simply because the drain cover wasn't on. So at home, make sure these cost about €2. And what happens is when a hedgehog goes in there, it's a race against time for us as volunteers because they're often filling up with water. If it starts to rain, there's maybe some food, grease and everything in there.
So they could potentially drown?
They absolutely will drown in there. And their spines are like Velcro. They get more and more stuck. And so then we have to come along, and it's very difficult sometimes. You've got as many spines as you can. You wedge them out. You're always wearing gloves whenever you're handling wildlife. Scoop them up. And there's our hedgehog. And then he'll go to Kildare Wildlife Rescue for rehabilitation and then released back into the wild.
And this is a stuffed little teddy, by the way. This
stuffed
isn't
teddy.
a real one.
But honestly,
you were
cover
telling
your
me
drains.
to cover the drains.
Cover the drains. Cover the drains and slow down on the road. That's the best thing you can do to help hedgehogs. And also, if you've got walls in your garden or fences, if you can make sure there's space for them to go between gardens, because that's something that's worked very well in the UK. They're called hedgehog highways, and it lets hedgehogs go around and meet each other, obviously, which they need to do to breed. And so, yeah, basically open up your garden and keep it natural.
Okay, where can we find out more online?
Kildare Wildlife Rescue, and we're selling our calendars, so please support the work that we do by buying a calendar.
Absolutely. Okay, Pierce and Fiona here down at Grey Abbey in County Kildare. Hope you learned lots about hedgehogs here this morning. Back to you in the studio in Dublin. Right, this little fella's
Thank
gorgeous.
you so
isn't he?
much,
Yeah.
Derek. He's mad about that teddy bear.
Look, in the drains. Getting caught in the drains.
The tongs.
There we go. Always have
Well
kitchen.
done,
Now,
Derek.
thank you, Derek.